Okay, so we've got this really cool guide here all about ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And you know, it's one of those things where everyone's heard about it
Right.
and everyone's kind of, messed around with it a little bit.
For sure.
But this guide seems like it's really going to take us to that like expert level.
Definitely, yeah, like a power user.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's what's so exciting is this is really for people who want to go beyond just,
Right.
the basics.
The kind of, surface level.
Yeah, like getting it to write you a poem or something.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Or, like the funny little tweets that people are getting it to write.
Right, right.
So the guide starts off talking about something really fundamental, and that's how to write better prompts.
Yes.
And yeah, it seems like it's a pretty straightforward idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think there's more to it than people realize.
I think so too. I think it's really that whole garbage in, garbage out principle
Right.
where you're going to get out of ChatGPT what you put into it.
Exactly.
So the better your prompt, the better the response.
Okay, so what are we actually doing there when we're writing a really good prompt? Like, what's the key?
I think the key is specificity. You want to be as specific as possible.
Okay.
And the guide gives this really good example of like, instead of just saying like, hey, write a blog post,
Right?
you're going to say, write a 500-word blog post about the benefits of remote work and include 3 statistics and a call to action.
Right.
So you're giving it all of that detail.
Right.
So it knows exactly what you're looking for.
It's like giving it that detailed brief instead of just being like,
Right.
Go do something.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. You're not just the boss who's like, just go make me something.
Right,
You're
yeah.
like, here are the plans, the blueprints.
Yeah, exactly.
This is what I want.
And it's not just about, how long it should be or what the topic should be. But it's also about giving ChatGPT context.
Yes, context is so important.
And the guide uses the email example
Yeah.
to really illustrate this.
Yeah, that's a good one. So tell me about that.
Well, it's like if you just say, like, write an email, that's not very helpful.
Right.
But if you say, I'm a marketing manager and I need to write an email to my loyal customers about our new eco-friendly product line,
Right.
now it has context.
Right.
It knows who you are, who you're talking to,
Right.
and what you're trying to achieve.
So it's kind of like you're giving it the background information it needs to understand what to do.
Exactly. And the more information you give it, the better it can tailor its response.
Okay, but is there ever a situation where like giving too much context might actually be a bad thing?
That's a good question.
Like, could we go too far?
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
I mean, if you like really over-constrain the prompt with a ton of detail,
Right.
you might kind of box it in,
Right.
and prevent it from being creative.
Right. Or coming up with something really unexpected.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's all about finding that balance.
Like enough detail to be helpful, but not so much that you're, stifling it.
So there's that sweet spot.
Right.
Okay. And then another thing the guy talks about is defining the tone.
Yes.
And this is something I don't always think to include,
Yeah.
but it seems like it could make a big difference.
It can really change the feel of the output.
Right.
Like if you want a humorous Instagram caption,
Right.
you need to tell it that you want it to be funny.
Okay. And so is that all it takes is just like adding the word humorous or playful or...
Yeah, pretty much. You just give it that little bit of direction
Okay.
and it knows what to do.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And then the last thing the guide mentions in terms of writing better prompts is asking for specific formatting.
Yes, that can be super helpful.
Yeah.
Especially if you need the information to be presented in a certain way.
Right, like if you wanted to create a table or a list or...
Exactly. Yeah. So like if you're asking it to compare the pros and cons of working from home,
Right.
you could ask it to put that in a table format.
And then it would just do it for you.
Yeah, it's like having a personal assistant.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so
Yeah.
we've covered the basic, prompt writing tips.
Right.
Now let's get into some of these secret hacks that the guide talks about.
Okay.
And the first one is role-playing.
Yes. This is where it starts to get really fun.
Okay, so how does role-playing work with ChatGPT?
So basically, you're asking ChatGPT to act as someone or something else.
Okay.
Like you could say, act as a lawyer and explain contract law to me,
Okay.
or act as my fitness coach and create a 30-day workout plan.
So it's like giving it a persona.
Exactly. And what's really cool is that it can actually tap into all of its knowledge and training data,
Right.
but it's doing it through this lens of this persona.
So it's kind of like you're getting a specialized expert.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
like having on-demand access to all sorts of different experts.
That's incredible. Okay. The next hack is iterative refinement.
Yes, this one's really important.
And I think it's something that a lot of people might not do naturally.
Yeah, I think people tend to think of ChatGPT as like a one and done kind of thing,
Right.
but it's actually much more powerful when you use it iteratively.
Okay, so how do you actually do that?
So you start by asking your initial question,
Right.
and then you look at the response and you think about how you can refine it.
Okay.
So maybe you ask for more detail,
Uh-huh.
or you ask it to focus on a specific aspect,
Right.
or you ask it to rephrase something.
It's like having a conversation.
Exactly. It's a back and forth process.
And with each step, you're getting closer and closer to what you really want.
Yeah, you're guiding it towards that perfect output.
I like that. Okay. The third hack is generating multiple versions,
Yes, this one's super useful.
especially if you're like me and you're indecisive.
It can definitely help with that.
So how does this work?
So let's say you're writing a social media post.
Okay.
You can ask ChatGPT to give you 3 different versions of the post.
Okay.
Maybe one that's funny, one that's professional, and one that's more casual.
And so then you have those options to choose from.
Right. And it can also help spark new ideas.
Right.
You might see something in one of the versions that you hadn't thought of before.
That's great. Okay. The fourth hack is called Teach Me Like I'm 5.
Love this one.
This one seems really clever. So what is the idea behind this?
So the idea is that if you can explain something in a way that a 5-year-old can understand,
Right.
then you really understand it yourself.
Okay.
So you're basically asking ChatGPT to break down complex topics
Uh-huh.
into simple language.
So it's like getting that ELI 5.
Exactly.
Okay, so give me an example of like how you would actually use this.
Well, like, let's say you're trying to understand quantum physics.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one.
You could ask ChatGPT to explain quantum physics to you like you're 5.
And then it would hopefully make it a little bit more accessible.
Yeah, I would break it down into simple terms and analogies.
That's really cool. Okay. And then the last hack is summarizing and simplifying large texts.
This one is a huge time saver.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you're dealing with a lot of information.
Right, like long articles, research papers, things like that.
Exactly. So you can ask ChatGPT to summarize a long article into bullet points,
Okay.
or you can ask it to give you the key takeaways from a research paper.
So it's like having a speed reading superpower.
Pretty much.
That's amazing. Okay, so we've covered the secret hacks.
Yes.
Now the guide gets into what it calls power user prompts.
Okay.
And this is where we see how we can actually apply these hacks to real-world situations.
Exactly.
So let's start with productivity.
Right.
How can we use these prompts to be more productive?
Well, we were talking about writing better emails before.
Right.
You can apply that same principle to writing follow-up emails after meetings.
Okay.
So instead of just saying, like, write a follow-up email,
Right.
you can say something like, write a follow-up email after my sales meeting. Emphasize the unique features of our product.
Okay.
And address the client's concerns about implementation.
So you're really giving it that specific information
Right.
to work with.
And that way you're going to get a much better email.
Makes sense. What about meeting notes? Is there anything we can do with those?
Yeah, you can ask ChatGPT to summarize your meeting notes into like 5 key action items.
And then you can just focus on those.
Exactly. It's all about cutting through the clutter.
Right, and getting to the most important stuff.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's productivity. What about business in general?
Well, in business, marketing is huge.
Of course.
And you can use ChatGPT to write really effective marketing copy.
Okay, so give me an example.
Sure. So let's say you're selling a new wireless gaming headset.
Okay.
You could ask ChatGPT to write a catchy product description that targets Gen Z and highlights the low latency and immersive audio.
Okay, so again, it's about being specific and giving it that context.
Yeah, exactly. And customer service is another area where ChatGPT can be really helpful.
Okay.
You can use it to write polite and empathetic responses to customer complaints.
Well, that's a good one.
Yeah, it can help you maintain that positive brand image.
Even when things go wrong.
Right.
Okay. And then what about creativity?
Oh, there are so many possibilities there.
I know, it's exciting.
It is, yeah. So, if you're writing a story,
Mm-hmm.
you can ask ChatGPT to help you come up with ideas for scenes or characters. Or you can even ask it to write the opening scene of your novel.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah. And if you're looking for something a little more lighthearted, you can ask it to come up with jokes or puns.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Like you could say, give me 5 pizza puns.
That's a good
It'll
one.
just spit them out.
I love it. Okay. So that's power user prompts.
Right.
Now let's talk about some of the hidden ChatGPT features.
Oh, okay.
Because I think a lot of people don't realize that there's more to ChatGPT than just that chat interface.
Yeah, there are some really cool features that are kind of tucked away.
All right, so tell me about those.
Well, one of the coolest ones is custom instructions. And this allows you to basically personalize how ChatGPT responds to you.
Oh, wow.
So you can set things like, always give me concise answers.
Okay.
Or format my responses as bulleted lists.
So it's like setting your preferences.
Exactly.
Oh, that's really neat.
Yeah, it makes it feel like your own personal AI assistant.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. The guide also mentions data analysis and browse the web.
Yes, but those are actually pro features.
Okay, so that means you have to pay for the ChatGPT Plus subscription
Right.
to get access to them.
But they're super powerful features.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about what they do.
So data analysis lets you upload data files like spreadsheets or CSVs,
Okay.
and then ChatGPT can analyze that data for you.
Wow, so it can like identify trends and...
Yeah, exactly. It can create visualizations. It can answer your questions about the data.
That's really powerful.
Yeah, it's like having your own data analyst.
Wow.
And then browse the web lets ChatGPT access real-time information from the internet.
Okay, so that means it can give you the most up-to-date information.
Right, so it can be really helpful for things like current events or research.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's like having a research assistant.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay, so those are the pro features.
Right.
Now, for those of us who are, always looking for ways to be more efficient,
Yes.
the guide provides a list of ChatGPT shortcuts.
Yes. These are super handy.
So tell me about those.
So there's one called Expand,
Okay.
and that basically tells ChatGPT to give you more detail on a response.
Okay.
So if you get a short answer and you want more information, you can just use that shortcut.
Okay. What else?
There's one called Shorten,
Okay.
and that does the opposite.
So it like summarizes a long response.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then there's Rewrite,
Okay.
which is great for rephrasing text.
Oh, that's useful.
Yeah, like if you need to make something sound more formal or more persuasive.
It makes sense.
And then there's Code,
Okay.
which is specifically for working with code.
Okay, so if you're a programmer, that one's really helpful.
Exactly.
Great. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
But, even with all of these tips and tricks,
Yeah.
ChatGPT isn't perfect.
It's not.
So the guide also provides some troubleshooting advice.
Right, because sometimes things don't go quite as planned.
Exactly.
Right.
So what do we do when ChatGPT just isn't getting it?
Well, the first thing you can try is clarifying.
Oh.
So if a response is vague or confusing, you can just ask for more detail.
Okay, so it's like saying, hey, can you explain that a little bit more?
Exactly, and sometimes that's all it takes.
Okay, what if that doesn't work?
Well, then you can try reframing.
Okay.
So that means rephrasing your question or request,
Okay.
maybe using different words or approaching it from a different angle.
So it's like you're giving it a different way to think about the problem.
Yeah, sometimes that can help it understand what you're looking for.
Okay, and then what about when you have a really complex task
Right.
that ChatGPT is just struggling with?
Yeah, sometimes it can get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So in those cases, you can try breaking it down into smaller steps.
Yeah.
So instead of asking it to do everything at once,
Right.
you give it one step at a
So it's
time.
like giving it a checklist.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's a good thing.
And then, you can always just try regenerating the response.
Right.
Sometimes you just get a bad one
Yeah, that happens.
and you need to try again.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, so that's troubleshooting.
Right.
And then the final thing the guide talks about is a pro-level ChatGPT prompt formula.
Yes. This is like the ultimate cheat sheet.
Okay, so tell me about this formula.
Okay, so it goes like this: act as role and task in a tone style, focusing on details, provide output in format.
Okay, wow, that's a lot to remember.
Yeah, but once you get the hang of it, it's really helpful.
Okay, so give me the example of how you would actually use this formula.
Okay, so let's say you want to write a LinkedIn post about remote work trends.
Okay.
So you would say, act as a social media expert and write a playful LinkedIn post about remote work trends focusing on the benefits for work-life balance.
Okay.
Provide 3 different versions.
So you're basically packing all of the important information into one sentence.
Exactly. And that way ChatGPT knows exactly what you want.
Wow, that's really powerful. Okay, so we've covered a ton of information today.
Yeah.
From the basics of prompt writing to some really advanced techniques.
And troubleshooting tips.
Exactly.
And I think the main takeaway here is that ChatGPT is an incredibly powerful tool.
Yes.
But you need to know how to use it effectively.
Right.
And hopefully this guide has given you the knowledge and the confidence to do just that.
Absolutely. So as you go back to using ChatGPT, I want you to think about all of the things we've talked about today.
Yeah.
And think about how you can apply them to your own work and your own creative projects.
And don't be afraid to experiment.
Yeah,
Try different things, see what works for you.
exactly. There's so much to explore.
There is, and that's what makes it so exciting.
Absolutely.
This is really just the beginning.
I think so too.
Who knows what the future holds?
Right, there's so many possibilities.
And ChatGPT is just one tool that's going to help us unlock them.
I can't wait to see what people create.
Me neither.
And I think we're going to see some really amazing things in the years to come.
I agree.
So keep experimenting, keep learning,
Yeah,
and most importantly, keep having fun.
absolutely.
Okay, well, that's it for our deep dive into the world of ChatGPT.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise.
Until next time, happy prompting.
And happy creating.
Bye.